continue.
Hello.
You're there.
Thank you. So I'm Peter Warfield, Library Users Association, and I said that I appreciate very much those who are here. It's not a quorum, so it's not a meeting. 5 people are here, for which thank you very much: Allison Washburn, Hanley Chan, Bruce Wolfe, Richard Nee, and Suzanne Monet. And it's very sad and it's very unfortunate that not the first time in these last few weeks and months that the task force can't seem to get a quorum for the important and valuable work of approving and getting improvements to the Sunshine Ordinance. I wanted to agree, as I said, with much of what the previous speaker said, and to underscore that in additional ways I think I have previously spoken about the chaotic way in which changes have gone forward here that make it difficult or impossible for all but the most, I don't know whether to say avid people or manic people, to follow what has gone on here. And at least I'm seeing a smile or two here. Certainly nobody should be expected to listen to the tapes of these meetings. Today you can't even know what went on because the previous speaker, Alan Grossman, wasn't even being recorded because of technical problems which are not this body's fault, but now seem to have been repaired.
Please continue.
I have received, as the result of an immediate disclosure request from your administrator, a document that I referred to from time to time, privately and in public, which is called, according to the copy I have, Updated Sunshine Ordinance Review Survey. And then it says number 1 just before the spreadsheet of 3 columns going on for about total of 14 pages. It says, using the list of provisions provided, please identify which provision or provisions of the ordinance have caused you difficulty. Include the admin code number of each, a description of the problem or problems it has caused, and how it could be amended or eliminated to achieve remedy. Every single one of those mentioned here as providing comment is a city department, such as Office of the City Attorney or Library. And the reason that I was not happy to hear particularly your previous member, Ms. Craven, refer to departments want this and departments want that is because we never saw the departments here, and we never heard in person or in writing what exactly it was that they said or why. I remembered with quite some unhappiness what some of the things were which I considered at the time smears that the task force was propagating in its meetings, meeting after meeting, smears against members of the public by departments who themselves had been found repeatedly in violation of the law, such as the library. In 2002 to 4, for those of you who weren't here, I filed more than a dozen complaints against the library. At one time in one agenda, there were 4 simultaneous complaints on that agenda, and I won a majority of those cases. Most of those that I didn't win outright were not won, in part at least, because of either lack of quorum or a lack of the 6 necessary votes. In many cases, there was an overwhelming majority in my favor. What exactly am I talking about, and what was it that Ms. Craven and others may have been catering for? So let me read to you from one of the Library Commission's comments, 67.21a. The library recognizes that prompt access to public records is an important goal of the Sunshine Ordinance. However, quote, without unreasonable delay, unquote, should be clarified so that it is clear that the public does not have a right to insist that the department immediately produce public records which require more than minimal search time to locate, or that staff make instantaneous copies of inspected records, particularly when many pages and files are involved. Nobody has ever brought a successful complaint about the time for copies, and that's one of my concerns with this ordinance. There is no time limit on copies. Where there is, some time limits on requests for information. And let me tell you, without going into the details of a long story about my discovery about the double secret rule at the library, I went there when the commission secretary wasn't there, so the assistant to the librarian was there, and I asked to look at the records that I had previously requested and were available. I looked at them and I said, I'd like copies of these not certain pages. Can you make those, any chance of getting those today? No. So I said, is there some number of pages that I might request from you that you would consider reasonable to give me at this time today? No. So I said, how about if I'm looking through this, I have a meeting or whatever it is, how about if I asked you for 1 page of these materials to be done now and the rest later? And she looked at me and she said, Mr. Warfield, the library is not obliged to give you copies upon demand. And that's when it clicked. I had never once gotten, past a certain time, I had never once gotten anything in the way of copies the same day that I came. It was always come back tomorrow. The double secret rule at the library is make him come in on another trip. And they smear the public by implying that people are coming in and making outrageous demands on them and that they want instantaneous copies. And I can tell you I've got instantaneous copies many times. I go in some place and I say, oh, this is very interesting. Could I have a copy of this page or these pages? Sure. And I get them instantaneously. But this is the kind of stuff that has been circulating and which I assume is part of what the departments were said to be saying to this group as to what they wanted. Let me give another example. 67.27B, Library Commission's comment on justification for withholding. This is on page 43 of the copy that Mr. Rustum gave me, which was from some other document I'm not sure on. He says it's on the website. 43, I guess, of an agenda packet, but it's whatever. It's in the 14 pages. 67.27B, I will read an excerpt. The SOFT, sick, has the further challenge of protecting public rights without sanctioning careless, frivolous, or harassing behavior by the few which misuse the rights afforded by public records laws. Who are they talking about? What are they talking about? It's a smear and a defamation of the people who are coming to the library like myself and like Mr. Chafee, your former chair and the first vice chair of this body. It's a smear on them, and it's telling you a bunch of stuff about what you ought to do to make the Sunshine Ordinance fairer, and particularly for the departments. So that's what this is some examples of what I was talking about that your body circulated in 2005 on a prior round of changes and repeatedly put as part of the agenda packet. You certainly never asked the public or gave the public equal time, if you like, by ensconcing the public's oral or other comments in a document like this. And that's one of the things I've been saying I want this body to do when you are doing a review of the ordinance, and that is to solicit the public, folks who filed complaints and those who may not have, those who may have just come to you or to your administrator, and ask them what's working and not, and then compile for those people what's working and what's not in the same way that was done for the departments. I think that the ordinance as you have it here is still a mess. Many of the changes are destructive of sunshine for the public, are toxic. And I think basically you should start from square one with a methodology to go forward as to how you want to do this that includes what I've said, the solicitation actively of your public including people who may not file formal complaints, and a rational way of moving forward with changes that will help you yourselves as well as the public to follow what's going on. At the last meeting, we had the sad sight of the chair doing his best to respond to my request, and I appreciate that he tried to, could not state what the one-sentence replacement was for 67.20A or 21A, what it was that he had requested, because the administrator didn't have a record of what he had said would be a good replacement statement for the whole section, and which members of the public, myself included, said was a good sentence and a reasonable change and something worth supporting. So I'd ask you to basically start over, but do it right and do a good job for the public that you are supposed to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair will observe that there is nobody else in the audience section. This is a special meeting of the San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, called for Tuesday, May 18, 2010 at 5 p.m. and called to order at 6:02 p.m. When we have the roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Nee?
Here.
Nee, aye. Member Cotton? Cotton excused. Member Manny?
Present.
Manny present. Member Washburn?
Present.
Washburn present. Member Knebber? Member Knebber excused. Member Johnson? Member Johnson excused. Member Wolf?
Here.
Wolf present. Member Chan? Chan present. Member Goldman? Goldman excused. Member Williams? Williams excused. Mr. Chair, we do not have a quorum.
Okay. In that case, the chair will declare that this meeting is adjourned. I do have a couple of information matters that I want to impart. Number one, regarding the question of placing a screen so that members of the public can follow along with visually with what's going on as we're deliberating on amendments to the ordinance. I did receive a call from the clerk of the board, Ms. Calvillo, who informed me that this room is just not set up for it. It can't be done in this room. Second, regarding the role of the city attorney, I have been in communication with DCA Threet, who informs me that he is in fact going through the amendments that we have put in place so far and is going to scrutinize them as to proper form, so that the next time we meet and as we go forward, we'll be up to snuff on whether anything is not in proper form. Now, a little sidelight to that, Ms. Calvillo informs me that actually the city attorney's opinion as to proper form is not required unless a member of the Board of Supervisors actually wants to scrutinize the amendments, any of the individual amendments that we propose. The scenario that she explained to me is if 4 members of the board want to sign off on it, they have to have what is called a Proposition C hearing, I believe. There was a Proposition C passed by the voters some years ago, and the way it would work is they would have to have a public hearing. The 4 supervisors would have to put the amendments package before a public hearing, take public testimony, but would not actually have to do anything on it. If any member of the board wanted to question any of the amendments, then it would have to go to the city attorney for interpretation or for determination as to proper form or not proper form. That's where we are now. What I'm going to do is put this on the agenda for next week for our regular meeting. I will ask that Mr. Rustum include 3 things. Number one, the latest packet, latest package, amendments package, which we have here today. Number two, the spreadsheet that Mr. Warfield requested, and I'm glad to see he's received it. Number three, all minutes of special meetings that we have had to date, including today's. Well, there won't be any minutes today's, but all meetings of special meetings where amendments have been discussed and incorporated or not incorporated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All minutes of the special meetings held to discuss the ordinance. Member Chan and Member Wolf.
So is there a deadline? Is there a deadline?
I have actually posed that question to Supervisor Mirkarimi, and a couple of his legislative aides have not received a response. What I asked them, they if they're going to put this on the ballot, they have to do so. I believe the deadline is January 15th or the 16th. And what I asked them is how much.
June? I mean June?
June.
June.
June. Did I say January?
No.
Yeah. No. No. Yeah.
I believe, okay, June 15th or 16th. What I asked Mr. Mirkarimi and his legislative aides is how much lead time they would need to get it there by that date. No response yet. So I will try to reconnect with them. Member Wolf.
So, just to comment on the clerk's response to the city attorney looking over what we've done to form. I think that's an incorrect perspective. The city attorney or the attorney, our legal counsel that's assigned for us, is there to advise us and to help us along the way. So I don't see it necessarily being this is the official city attorney's opinion or response. This is the legal counsel for the Sunshine Task Force's legal advice to help them along, get it to a certain place where it could be in form. And then subsequent to that, if it were to go the Prop C kind of way and there was some request to have it looked at, that would be the point of the city attorney then looking it over. I don't necessarily feel that the attorney that sits here on our behalf, because of the ethical wall that doesn't necessarily exist anywhere else, in any other body, is the same. Is in the same capacity. So, frankly, I just feel that we just run blind with trying to. We come up with the right concepts, but we're not quite sure whether it's the right language, the right legalese to use, and that's what we're just needing help with. And that's the purpose of having an attorney here for us, be it from the city attorney's office or from anywhere else. So, that's something that I would, if I have the chance to have a conversation with her, I'd like to express to her. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Member Washburn.
I was just wondering what it means when the an attorney looks at something to make sure it's in the proper form. Doesn't that include language? Or
Through the chair, yes, that's exactly what I mean. But it's not necessarily to. It's more like, is our concept correct? Are we contradicting ourselves in any way? Are we trying to overwrite the California Public Records Act? As I think Mr. Grossman had mentioned, or Mr. Warfield had mentioned. It's kind of like to help guide us along. Like, we're literally just citizens, offering oversight. And so we know from either hearing from the public or from ourselves or just looking at the thing saying, this isn't right or this isn't strong enough or how do we change this well, how do we make it so that it speaks in the language of the law well? And how do our concepts get translated properly? We shouldn't have to sit here struggling as to how it should be
Yeah,
said.
he should be sitting
And
there.
it should be
advising,
sitting
yeah.
there telling us and helping us do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is that's not, it's bringing it to form in a certain way, but that's what that's our regular work. That's throughout, month after month after month. That's what we're supposed to be doing, and that's what that we have that guidance for, that counsel for. So, all I'm saying is just that this is not in the same kind of bring it into legal form that the clerk is referring to. What the clerk is referring to is when a policymaker wants to bring legislation to the Board of Supervisors, the person who actually writes that legislation is the city attorney, and make sure that it is to form. And that's the difference. We're not bringing necessarily, we're not doing the same thing.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're just trying to clean up our document and make a presentation to the voters so that's in some semblance of, it's not going to contradict itself or what have you.
Okay, well, I have not told the city attorney to back off or anything like that,
No,
so.
I'm not suggesting.
Member Chan and Mr. Warfield, you have something to add to the discussion?
I mean, I think we're all in a timeline here, right? Because June, if we need to get it back, if we need to get it in by June 15th, right?
No, the supervisors need to get it in by June
Or the
15th.
supervisors need to get it in.
We need to
June
get it to
15th.
them like yesterday. But I haven't heard anything back from Supervisor Mercarimi as to how much back time they need from June 15th, before June 15th, for them to get it on the ballot by that time, for them to put it forward by that time. That's what I've been getting at.
Yeah, I think it's an embarrassment where we can't even get a quorum and finish this amendment. And I think it's very important to all of us sitting in this task force to get this thing done. We've been here for 4 years. I'm serious, it's an embarrassment. I got nothing to say.
It's
And why isn't anybody here? My busy day, I took my time off, my busy day to get here and get this thing done.
well, the people who are not here do have other commitments. It's unfortunate, but we're all volunteers, and usually we look forward to 2 meetings a month, a task force meeting and a committee meeting. We've been having special meeting just about every week that we haven't had a regular meeting. So it's going to happen that not everybody can make every special meeting. Unfortunate, but true. Mr. Warfield?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Member Chan. Embarrassment is a polite and mild term, but I appreciate your pointing that out. The timing is certainly a matter for this time, but I wouldn't be in a rush to send out something that's an oil slick on the Gulf of Mexico. I would rather get it right and have the proper participation so that it has had a good process to become a good product. Just with respect to the city attorney, let me say very practically, let me quote from section 67.30, the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, the current ordinance, and also just let me very briefly suggest strongly that the chair put onto the agenda an action item for the next regular meeting, and that is to request the city attorney, whose responsibility it is to support this task force, that you put on the agenda for a vote by the body that the task force make a request as provided under the law. And let me read you the law for the record. The city attorney, and I would like for the members all to be listening, if I might, Mr. Wolf and Mr. Chan.
Go ahead and continue.
Okay. The city attorney shall serve as legal advisor to the task force. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force shall, at its request, have assigned to it says in, but to it, an attorney from within the city attorney's office or other appropriate city office who is experienced in public access law matters. This attorney shall serve solely as a legal advisor and advocate to the task force, and an ethical wall will be maintained between the work of this attorney on behalf of the task force and any person or office that the task force and so on and so forth, conflict of interest, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the city attorney's job under this ordinance to support you, and you may, at your request, you shall, not may or might, or if they feel like it, shall, at its request, have assigned to it an attorney from within the city attorney's
Mr.
office.
Warfield, I'm going to cut you short because I'm a step ahead of you here. No action, as you suggested, is going to be necessary. I sent the city attorney a letter already reinstating the exact request that you're talking about.
Wonderful. Can I ask when, and is that on the record of the task force's minutes or anything like that where it could be seen?
It's not on the record. I sent the letter out. I'll be glad to provide you with a copy of the letter that I sent.
Appreciate that. Like I said, I think it would be, well, I'm glad to hear it. I don't know whether the task force as a body needs to or ought to vote on such a thing. I think it
We don't
would
need
be
to
very
vote on it.
useful to document it as
You know,
minutes.
I've been a number of other members of the public have suggested that I do the exact same thing, so I went ahead and did it. And after seat number 1 is refilled, seat number 1 is the SPJ appointed attorney seat. I will request a meeting with Mr. Herrera, and the attorney, a gentleman named David Snyder, has already told me that he would be glad to sit in on that meeting.
Thanks very much. Like I said, I think it would be helpful for the record, for yourselves, and for the public that that be somewhere either announced or something so that it's on the agenda as well as particularly in the minutes. And yes, I think that the task force should be very sharply and acutely concerned about the response of the city attorney. I don't think you should give it a lot of time. I think that, as some of the members here have said, you need an attorney, and it isn't just to go with the legal language. It has to do with how does this prospective change relate to, for example, the State Public Records Act, et cetera, et cetera.
Understand.
And under the law, you're entitled to that, and I appreciate that you've done it. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're done.